And I know a lot of you guys are saying, okay, yeah, we'll let them go. Who cares? Who cares if they leave? I want to let you know who cares. All of you guys care if they leave. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football back at it again. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be updated on all things college football, hit that red subscribe button right now. Do it, please. I'm telling you, I appreciate it so much. Also, hit the like button as well, and follow me on Twitter/X. That fam is growing. If you like EA college football content, go check out the MF Film Room. It is a link in my description. But again, we're talking about college football content. Let's go. All right, guys, I just saw Colorado State from the Mountain West absolutely just decapitate Virginia in the play-in game to be playing Texas later on in the tournament. I know my Boise State Broncos play tonight. I'm seeing this again. I'm filming this a day ahead. They play tonight against Colorado. Hopefully they can win that game. But I think what we want to do is talk about the ACC in another respect here, because something came forward. We all know recently that Florida State basically said, we're trying to break up with the ACC. The ACC countersued back, blah, blah, blah. We got a bunch of stuff going on there. However, we know this. We already knew Florida State was one of those teams. However, we found out that another team has decided to join them. Your Clemson Tigers. Here we are with Pete Thamel on ESPN.com. Clemson files lawsuit against ACC over exorbitant exit fees. He posted this just yesterday for you guys, today for me, in a significant move that could continue to alter the rapidly shifting landscape of college sports. Clemson filed lawsuit against the ACC on Tuesday that portends its exit from the league. In a filing in a court common pleas in Pickens County, South Carolina, Clemson calls into question both the ACC's grant of rights and exit fees, calling the withdrawal fee unconscionable and unenforceable. So again, I want to make sure we understand something here. This is a weird legal concept, but if you're ever in a situation where you sign an agreement and there's something within it that's just completely unfair, it is, as much as you might say, oh, you signed an agreement, a lot of these things happen in, as an example, a prenuptial agreement. You cannot put anything you want in a prenuptial agreement. Like, as an example, you're a man, you're a billionaire, and your wife is not a billionaire. You can't marry her and be like, oh yeah, by the way, if we are married for 25 years and you get divorced, you don't get $1 single in alimony. That would technically be unconscionable. She's been married to you for 25 years. She hasn't had a job. That's not necessarily fair there. So in this respect here too, this became unconscionable based on new circumstances. The new circumstances mainly being the SEC and the Big Ten's contracts and how much money they're getting as compared to other teams like that are way worse than Clemson and Florida State. They're thinking that right now it is unconscionable and unenforceable. It also calls the ACC's view that the league's grant of media rights would allow the league to own Clemson's media rights after it left the league a nonsensical reading, wrong, and inconsistent with the plain language of that agreement. Clemson asks in a suit for a declaration that the ACC would not own the rights to the Clemson games after Clemson ceases to be a member of the ACC. Clemson also wants the exit fee 3 times the ACC's operating budget, an estimated $140 million, rules as, quote, an unenforceable penalty in violation of public policy. This is where it gets crazier, and this is what they're basically asking. Quote, the total cost of the exit within the rights and the fees was cast at $572 million in Florida State's lawsuit. So continuing on here, and it says that right there, and the fact that what they're talking about is they want to make sure that they're declaring that the grant of rights are limited to only those needed to perform the ESPN agreements, that the media rights Clemson granted to the ACC did not include any Clemson games that are played after Clemson just ceases to be a member of the ACC. They straight up put it in the agreement. They're trying to leave the ACC. Boom, right there. Not like, oh, we're maybe thinking about going over here, or maybe we have unequal equal revenue distribution. No, they're basically saying we want to leave right now. It also says here that enter a declaratory judgment declaring that section 1.4.5, I hate that, withdrawal penalty is void as unconscionable and unenforceable penalty, the enforcement of which would violate the public policy, and Clemson would not be required to pay the withdrawal penalty. And last but not least, enter a declaratory judgment declaring that Clemson does not owe any fiduciary duties to the ACC and has not breached any legal or obligation it might know to the ACC by filing this lawsuit. Basically what they're saying is, number one, all this stuff, if we leave, we wouldn't have to owe you any money. Number two, the withdrawal fee is unfair. And number three, even by filing this lawsuit, we're not actually violating our fiduciary agreement with the ACC going forward. And I know a lot of you guys are saying, okay, yeah, we'll let them go. Who cares? Who cares if they leave? I want to let you know who cares. All of you guys care if they leave. So if you look at it right here, if we're talking about the ACC losing Florida State, Clemson, and then Notre Dame right now, not necessarily in the league, but we see these dark blue lines right here are the ACC. So this is Notre Dame, and this is Florida State, and this is Clemson. If you look at this, the next dark blue line is all the way over here in Miami. Also remember to want to leave. And then Louisville, North Carolina, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and NC State. So you see the fact that Miami currently has 1.77 million viewers. Again, this is 2016 to 2023 regular seasons per Sports Media Watch. You see the fact that Colorado's at 1.66. I would be really interested to see not 2016 to 2023, but 2015 to 2022, basically because a lot of this 1.66, I wouldn't be surprised if most of that happened in 2023 because of, the Deion Sanders effect. But check this out. Miami over those seasons, 1.77, which puts them just below Indiana and just above Minnesota. Now, part of that has to do with the fact that Indiana plays Michigan, they play Ohio State, and so does Minnesota. Vanderbilt plays all those big SEC teams. That's part of the reason why they get those viewers. But let's just be honest, okay? The average viewer really wants to see Clemson, really wants to see Florida State, and both of those teams want out of the ACC. And a cool little note they put here on section number 82 they have of their article. They basically said here that it's Clemson contends that the ACC's exit fee, $140 million, is absurdly high compared to other conferences and goes on the list to the other exit fees. So you see this, they're like, upon information and belief, the ACC's excessive withdrawal penalty is significantly larger than that of other comparable intercollegiate athletic conferences as set forth in the table below. Big Ten, I didn't know that if you wanted to leave the Big Ten, you could just go. So there's no withdrawal fee. You want to leave? All right, sure. You want to make less money? Go on ahead. The Big 12, which is an annual or an amount equal to revenues distributed to the departing member for the final 2 years of its membership in the conference. So basically 2 years, if it's like $30 million a year, you pay $60 million and you can leave. The SEC, which is $30 million if 2 years notice provided, $40 million if less than 2 years is not provided, and $45 if no notice is provided. That's what they're basically saying is like, okay, so it's zero to leave the Big Ten. It's, let's just say 2 times $30 million, so that's $60 million to leave the Big 12, and it's $45 million to leave the SEC with no notice. So what you're basically saying is it costs more for one team to leave the ACC than a Big 10, SEC, and a Big 12 team to leave immediately. All right. Now, Ross actually has an article that he wrote over here on yahoo.com where he continues on with kind of what's the next step for these teams. Before leaping to conclusions about the SEC and Big Ten's interest in the Noles and the Tigers, Clemson Tigers, let's visit several other paths in which the two schools could find a more suitable home. One, ACC implosion. Now, again, the ACC implosion, there's a lot that goes on with that. I know a lot of people are seeing, what happened with the Pac-12, the Pacific Coast Conference. It's going to happen with the Atlantic Coast Conference. I don't know how that's going to happen. I do know that, again, what could happen here is an implosion could be a reshuffling out of brands that aren't as valuable. As an example here, he says, in this scenario, 8 of the 10 programs could reform the ACC into a smaller and more valuable conference, a curing of the league and one of the topics discussed among the 7 last spring. Such a move could conceivably leave a handful of basketball powers, Louisville and Duke specifically, to be poached by the country's most valuable basketball conference and its aggressive commissioner, the Big 12, and Brett Yormark. I seriously think that is the next move we're going to see if we were to see all the teams become free agents. Like I said, I think that, and we're going to get into this in a second here, I think that Stanford and Cal, as much as we freaking hate it, have more influence on the ACC than we would like to admit. Number 2 here, he says, sweeping college athletics landscape shakeup. Basically what that means is the NCAA goes away, all the conferences go away, all the top teams band together. There wouldn't be no Power 2, it would be a Power 1. That would be a lot to go there. There's a lot of red tape within that. The next one here is pretty interesting. Number 3 here is a possibility, he says, is joining another league. Yes, the option everyone wants to talk about, but perhaps not the most likely scenario for specifically FSU and Clemson. This is very important what he says in these next couple sections here. It is unlikely that any SEC or Big Ten school will agree to accept a reduction in their TV distribution to add any school. For the SEC, that is especially given its footprint. The league already owns a football hold in South Carolina and in Florida. Also, the SEC programs in those states would likely make a fuss, if they haven't already, over inviting the league and their arch rivals, Texas A&M's reaction to adding the SEC inviting Texas. In order for the Big Ten and SEC to expand, they'll likely need more money for their television partners, a lot more money, probably more than $100 million more dollars per year. That's primarily Fox and the Big Ten and the ESPN for the SEC. There's one problem with this. Quote, there isn't as much money in the market as there once was, unquote, said a conference official with knowledge of the network's dealings. Exhibit A, the Pac-12. Exhibit B, the decline of linear cable. Could FSU and Clemson be added on the cheap like SMU, Stanford, and Cal? Those teams would only receive a portion of ACC distribution. The same goes for Washington and Oregon, which joined the Big Ten for half a distribution check for at least 7 years. Sure, remember here, and this is important, however, there is one current ACC program that many within the industry believed is the most attractive expansion target for the Power 2, and it's not FSU, and it's not Clemson. North Carolina, an industry source said, is the linchpin. And if you check this out, the three schools that opposed the move of adding SMU, Cal, and Stanford was Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina. North Carolina State was originally objecting, but then they decided to join. So 3 of the 15, including Notre Dame, they decided no, even though ultimately the 12 out of the 15 votes got them in. So you see the fact, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, those are 1, 2, and 3 targets for the Big Ten or the SEC because North Carolina not in a market for currently the Big Ten or the SEC. Now, this is a conversation I want to bring up because we're not going to go into it too deep here, but I want to make sure we could touch base on this because I don't, again, it's super easy to be like, okay, the Pac-12, got pillaged, then the ACC is going to get pillaged. But I unfortunately think that, again, as much as I hate to admit it because I roll my eyes every time I think about this, Stanford and Cal have power. So you think about these teams. Florida State wants to leave. We're assuming that North Carolina wants to leave and Clemson wants to leave. So if you go from there, okay, then there's Louisville, the rest of these teams. Think about this. Stanford, Cal, Georgia Tech, AAU member, Duke, AAU member, Miami, AAU member, Pitt, AAU member, Virginia, AAU member, and Syracuse, former AAU member. What I'm trying to say here is don't be surprised if Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, maybe one other leaves, and the league still survives. Now, I bet that what will happen there, I wouldn't be surprised if Louisville, maybe Duke gets picked off by the Big 12, again, for basketball reasons. Obviously, they have done everything they can. They're doing fantastic work over there. Brett Yormark is with the basketball schools, but don't be surprised if they stick around. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, they won't stick around. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, but again, Florida State, now Clemson, potentially North Carolina, they all want out of the league. So we see the fact that Florida State filed suit, they want out. Clemson's filed suit. What they're basically saying is why do we have to pay $500 million to leave our conference? If you look at the Big Ten doesn't have an exit fee. Now, you wouldn't want to leave the Big Ten if you got invited. The Big Ten doesn't have an exit fee. The Big 12 is 2 years of revenue. The SEC's is $45 million if you leave with no year's notice. So it just doesn't really make a lot of sense there. Again, how it gets done in court, we will see. But right now, Clemson basically also saying we should not owe $500 million to leave your league. All right, guys, get in the comments right now. What do you guys think about all this? Again, am I wrong with my estimation? Like I said, I think that Stanford and Cal, as much as it pains me to say, they hold more weight than we would like to admit in conference realignment. I know what you're saying. I know you're saying, oh my God, they're not even good at football. Hey, right here. Totally see you. But I am saying all of those presidents are talking to all those other presidents. Do they want that to fall apart? I don't know. You guys in the comments and let me know what you think is going to happen. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys later. I am out.